Hello, and welcome back to BookSquirrel. This is another book review. This is my third book review from my 20 top-ranked sci-fi book TBR list that I made a video about. If you want to see all the books in that I'm going to be reviewing on this channel at some point, I'll put the link in the description. So today I'm actually going to talk about J.G. Ballard's Crash. I'm going to be using my 5-point ACORN system to analyze the book's approach, characters, originality, readability, and narration. Each of those topics has the potential 2 acorns for a total of potential 10 acorns. All right, so let's get to it. So the version that I read was a republication of the book published October 5th, 2001, but the original Crash by J.G. Ballard was published in June of 1973. And it runs about 218 pages printed. And here is the blurb as available on Kindle. The Definitive Cult, postmodern novel, a shocking blend of violence, transgression, and eroticism, reissued with a new introduction from Zadie Smith. When J.G. Ballard, our narrator, smashes his car into another and watches a man die in front of him, he finds himself drawn with increasing intensity to the mangled impacts of car crashes. Robert Vaughn, a former TV scientist turned nightmare angel of the expressway, has gathered around him a collection of alienated crash victims and experiments with a series of autoerotic atrocities, each more sinister than the last. But Vaughn craves the ultimate crash, a head-on collision of blood, semen, engine coolant, and iconic celebrity. First published in 1973, Crash remains one of the most shocking novels of the 20th century and was made into an equally controversial film by David Cronenberg. Let's get this acorn car a-crashin'. Okay, approach. You can tell by the blurb that there's some big themes in this book and some major adult themes in this book. And I wasn't sure how much I was going to like this book. I'm not a big car person, and so I was a bit skeptical. When it comes to the cover's okay. I get the crashed windshield. There's 2 people that are in the throes of passion, but I wasn't analyzing it that hard. I looked at it and I thought, okay, white border along the bottom, it's okay. But when I started reading, man, this book comes to life. The cover came to life. The blurb came to life. And it told me right from the beginning what I was to expect with this book. But I did kind of a flip. I went from being indifferent to just jumping in completely into this book. So my approach for J.G. Ballard's Crash is 16 acorns. And it only would have been higher if it had drawn me in before I started reading. Because that's really when you pick up the book and go, do I want to read this or not? And if this hadn't been a recommended book, I really don't know if I ever would have picked it up, frankly. On to characters. I think there's a perfect amount of characters in this book. And each of them are incredibly complicated people. These people feel like they have depth. They don't just feel shallow at all. I mean, the characters are definitely problematic. However, it is the commentary of the book. Unlike my issue with Snow Crash, which had problematic characters just for the sake of it, this is a part of the experience. This is a transgressive novel. There are all of these highways being put up. People are driving faster and faster. And there's aspects of it where it feels almost like it's gating the people in with these cement structures, putting in all of this ugly danger in front of you. And this idea that there are going to be people that are going to act out, that are going to find ways to take that cage that they see around them and break the bars or do something a little naughty to try to express their freedoms. And so because of that, the problematic aspect feels warranted. It feels like a really purposeful aspect of telling the story. And J.G. Ballard really digs into the psychology of obsession, fascination. This book is the epitome of that phrase, just like a car crash, you can't look away. They're being so dangerous. They're being so out there and taboo that you're just waiting for their crash to happen. They felt completely real. I thought the character development in this book was excellent. I give the characters in J.G. Ballard's Crash a full 20 acorns. Just have them. Just have the acorns. Next up is Originality. Here's the thing. There's probably in infinite ways that a book can have originality. In my prior read, the originality was just change every term we already know slightly, throw in every single technology idea that you have, just barf it out onto the page. But I also think originality can exist in just something that you've never read before. I can tell you I have never read anything like this book before. This book to me was incredibly poignant and just felt like it had a life of its own. And I think that that's enough. This is considered a sci-fi book because it falls into transgressive fiction and dystopia. And ultimately, if you read this from today's perspective, you're not going to see anything sci-fi. You're not really going to see how different the vision was in this book to the reality of 1973. But regardless, I still think that this book is incredibly original in its perspective, in its experience, and I wonder how many books out there are actually going to capture this same vibe. I give J.G. Ballard's Crash 18 acorns for originality. All right, up next is Readability. This is where I deducted the most amount of acorns, and it's primarily for a couple of reasons. This book is not that easy to read. The sentences can be very dense. Sometimes J.G. Ballard will wax poetically. It can really challenge your mind as far as how words are used and how things are described. So those moments would make me stop and think. And while I liked those moments, it definitely slowed down my reading. And sometimes the density is totally manageable and you start feeling like you're flying through the book. But then you'll hit that snag again that really puts the brakes on things. But that's kind of fun because it's a car analogy. In addition to that, the book has a lot of graphic descriptions of crashes, of injuries, and of course, erotic descriptions. These are such main themes in the book that they are throughout. So those among us who are quick to clutch their pearls would not want to read this book. But those topics, I'm not someone who likes gore. And I would say J.G. Ballard does a decent job of sugarcoating the body gore in this to a degree. But keep in mind, I mean, this is called Crash. If you're going to read this book, you're going to be reading some intense descriptions. For some, it might also be incredibly repetitive, because it is incredibly repetitive at times, but there's always some sort of progression happening. I found that the good outweighed the bad in its readability, but just by a bit. So I give Readability a 12 out of 20 acorns. Narration. I gotta say, I am already a huge fan of J.G. Ballard's narration. His ability to describe things, he is a master of language. He teleports you brilliantly into the mind of the protagonist, which is also him. This book is told in first person, and I find it to be really interesting. Another aspect of the originality of this book, that literally the main character is himself, James Ballard. It didn't detract from the experience for me at all. But his prose just is so beautiful and so compelling and captivating. It's so consistent. It's so believable. The book is primarily description. The dialogue takes a backseat. Pun intended. And once again, because of his control of the language, I didn't care. I didn't mind that. I think the structure of the book was delicious. From the jump, he tells you what this book is about, and he shows you what the promise is. And then the rest of the book is just this slow drip of getting to that promise. My only real complaint about the narration, for me personally, that did impact the score, when he would go into describing the infrastructure, the layout of things, even the way that people's bodies would be positioned in cars, or the description of the car's structure itself. Some of that I couldn't really pinpoint in my mind, but I still would get what he was saying. Okay, he pulled off the highway. Okay, he's following another car. Okay, there's someone in his back seat. Okay, there's a face against a window. So I had to boil some of these things down, but I didn't care. His word choice and the way that he described things was so fascinating to me. I felt it to be overall very satisfying, that I didn't mind that I had to make some shortcuts. So overall, I give narration 18 acorns out of 20. All right, so the final score that I give to J.G. Ballard's Crash is 84 out of 100 acorns. This actually puts it right under the score that I gave Blindsight. And yet I would argue that this book probably had more of an impact. I enjoyed this experience just a little bit more. It was shorter. It was incredibly fascinating. There was so much psychology to it. I preferred the poetic confusion of this book over the super technical SAT word descriptions of Peter Watts's book. And yet the score is what it is. Partially because my approach was a little not excited at first and I deducted points for that. And then the readability. But I think this is definitely a long-lasting book for me. It's an experience. It's interesting. It's short. Normally at the end of each of my videos, I spin a wheel to find out what the next book is that I'm going to read. But I did just pick my first book for October in my 20 top-ranked horror TBR list. So my next book will be The Whistling by Rebecca Netley. So that'll be the first review in October, and I'm excited for it. I want to be scared. I hope I get scared. And if you did enjoy this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.